This is the final word. T20 World Cup Daily, day 20.2. Geoff Lemon and Henry Moeran of BBC Test Match Special. We are in St Lucia. The game was in Antigua. It's just been called off with a bit of rain. The show's brought to you by Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. Henry, you were going to tell me all about today in the space of 30 seconds.
It was a game where Australia won the toss, elected to have a bowl. They didn't elect to have a field. No one chooses to field. They elected to have a bowl first. Restricted Bangladesh to 140 for 8. Mitchell Starc struck early. Adam Zampa picked up a couple. Pat Cummins got a hat-trick. Weird old hat-trick, though, not the sort of 3 in a row as you would know it. It was across 2 overs. That always feels a little unsatisfactory. Then Australia bashed 100 runs to the loss of 2 wickets before the rains finally put pay to the game. They win the game comfortably via DLS. Bangladesh pretty poor. Australia pretty good. And up and running in the group. Australia joining India with a victory.
Job done. Warner got dropped on 5. That didn't help, but it probably wouldn't have made that much difference. Patrick Cummins took a hat-trick.
So, yes, it's a hat-trick, but it's not setting somebody up and then intimidating someone and ripping out off stump. It was one of those, a bit like Stephen Finn, dare I say it, at the MCG in that tournament opener in 2015.
Who, I should be clear, said that himself while watching the game. He said that hat-trick was as bad as mine. But when the third wicket of a hat-trick is the first ball of an over and it's a scoop shot, caught at short fine leg. How many hat-tricks in history do you think have ended with a scoop caught at short fine leg?
Not very many, but this is a different day and age, and nowadays teams are looking to score runs however they can, which again kind of undermines it because it was desperate stages in the innings, back end of an innings, a bit like that Finn one in 2015. It's not like a red ball hat-trick. No. It's not like one of those where you think that rips the game apart in the space of 3 deliveries. It was sort of very well done. Patrick hat-trick, lovely, it rhymes, we like that. But beyond that, it's not one I don't think he's going to be hanging pictures up on his lavatory wall.
There might be a picture of Mamadullah playing the big pull shot, getting the bottom edge onto the stumps to set that up. So I'm going to start this off by saying, and look, this may be controversial, I don't know, but it's been a long night. We've been watching this game for a while. It's finally been rained off. And we have been really upbeat. We've had to be really upbeat about things through this World Cup. We've been upbeat about the USA, who have deserved to have some upbeatness about them because they've come in and they've taken things on. We've been upbeat about Nepal. We've been upbeat about Uganda being at this World Cup. We've been upbeat about a lot of teams. Bangladesh, at the moment, a shithouse. And it's disappointing, and they're not always, and they're not, the players are not, their potential ceiling is not, but right at the moment, they're dreadful. They don't deserve to be in the Super 8s. The only reason they're in the Super 8s is because Sri Lanka were even worse and somehow managed to not be in the Super 8s. Coming out of that group, which was, clearly the worst group of the competition, South Africa nearly lost to Nepal and should have. Bangladesh nearly lost to Nepal and should have. Nepal should have qualified, and they played terribly as well through this World Cup. That entire group stunk the place out. The Dutch were awful. They were good in the 50-over World Cup last year, but they were bad here. They'd never had a game where they got on top. And somehow out of that entire stumbling sort of house of cards shit show, Bangladesh managed to qualify. And they were just nowhere tonight. They were nowhere. You lose a wicket in the first over to Mitchell Starc, that can happen. There's a reasonable sort of rebuilding partnership between Lytton Das there and Shanto, who's now skippering the side, who was good, and we've loved his work on the show for a while. But they just couldn't get going, and then eventually Lytton's out for 16 off 24 balls. He's soaked up a fifth of the available deliveries to make 16 runs, and he's left too much to do for everyone else, and no one else can really do it, even though Cridoy does his best and, like you say, takes them on here and there. There's just not enough left in the rest of that side. I was frustrated tonight. I wasn't expecting any more from Bangladesh, and that's why I was frustrated, because they've played so poorly to this point. I don't expect you to go boots in as I have, but I just wanted to get that off my chest.
What I would say is Bangladesh's trajectory has had moments of immense highs. You go back to Adelaide in 2015, they beat England in that game where it really felt like it was such a pivotal moment for England, certainly, in terms of how they responded to that. But you thought it was the launch pad for Bangladesh in White Ball. They were going somewhere, and there was such a clear sense of momentum. And that is brought into such sharp relief when you look at what we've seen in the development of sides in this tournament. Say, the United States, who 5 years ago, governing body issues, all of that sort of stuff.
They'd still have those issues.
And then you look at, say, a team like Scotland who've come into this tournament, we've all been saying, oh, it's a free hit for them. They've absolutely written that off. They said, no, it's not remotely a free hit. We're here to compete, and they've done just that. And goodness me, did they cause England headaches in that group. And then other sides that have developed so quickly in the intervening years. Afghanistan, who played in that 2015 World Cup, and were at that point, they were the side that everyone thought, well, we're going to win this easily. Now they're in a game against India early on today, and you're thinking, well, I quite fancy Afghanistan here. And you're just wondering, well, why haven't Bangladesh followed the similar path? Why haven't they managed to develop as other sides have done? And it's a real shame because they've got some highly talented players. You look over the years, the likes of Shakib, and still there, of course, and Mustafiz has been a fine bowler, and Taskin, and all of these elements where you think, Mehdi Hasan as well, fine bowler. There has to be some way of getting this all working. But for some reason, they've not managed to develop like other sides. I think it's a real frustration because you want more teams being as good as is possible.
Right, and you see that bit through the middle where Shakib gets out, hits one up in the air, caught and bowled off Marcus Stoinis. He's out for 8. Mahmudullah's out for 2, chopping on. Mehdi Hasan out first ball. In that part of that Cummins hat-trick, this is the core of players who should be driving that innings on. They're not doing it. They're not able to do it. And they do have these couple of more recent younger players who are coming through and offering them something. So Tanzib Hassan Shakib, who opens the bowling here, he of the Warhammer beard, who comes in and he gets Warner cutting to point, first over, dropped. And that's the kind of thing where, yes, anyone can drop a catch, but where a good team doesn't do that. It's a straightforward chance, it's put down. And that's their opportunity early to maybe put a bit of pressure on Australia, and they're not able to do it. They've got Rishad Hussain, the leg spinner, who's come in and been super impressive, and he is impressive again. He takes a couple of wickets here. He bowls Travis Head with, I'm not going to say a brilliant mystery delivery. It was a decent leg break on the stumps, and Travis Head just tried to wallop it, over the sort of outside onto the road somewhere and missed it and got bowled. But he gets Mitchell Marsh LBW with one that's drifting towards leg stump. It's clipping enough of it. So he's done his little bit, but they're not able to do any more than that. Warner's able to, it felt dismissive the way Warner batted. He's like, oh, okay, you've dropped me early. All right, well, now I'm just going to whack the ball around. I'm going to play switch hits. I'm going to reverse this. I'm going to pump that over the leg side. I'm going to sort of pummel short balls from your seamers, and I'm going to rack up 50 in no time at all. It just felt way too easy for Australia tonight in a match that is supposed to be at this level. Yeah, the Super 8s is supposed to be a high level of competition, and it didn't feel like Australia had much competition tonight.
No, it didn't. And I'm going to use the analogy of a round of golf and somebody's learning the game. And I don't play golf because I haven't got,
neither do I.
I haven't got the competence or the coordination to do so. But people speak about how it takes one shot in a round of golf, and that keeps you hooked. That's enough just to keep your interest there. And it almost feels like this Bangladesh side, you don't get enough of those moments that keep you interested and keep you thinking, oh, okay, yeah, they could cause an upset today. You sort of know what you're going to get. And that's a real shame because there have been periods in the last 10 years where they have been a side you quite fancy to cause a bit of an upset. It didn't feel like that tonight. It felt like an Australian side, as you say, who when they headed out with all the goodwill in the world and you're thinking, 141, well, an early wicket or two and this could be interesting. It was never going to be interesting because you knew as soon as that catch went down, Warner and Head were going to have some fun. They did just that, smashed it all over the place. There wasn't enough threat. There wasn't enough in the tank from a Bangladesh bowling unit that on paper should have enough variation and opportunity to cause problems. It felt very, very easy for Australia. And credit to them. They played very well indeed in that run chase, but it wasn't a run chase where you felt there was any degree of pressure at any point. And how often are we saying this about this Bangladesh side?
So 140 for 8 Bangladesh, 100 for 2 when it's called off Australia. That means it gets a bit tricky with net run rate when you've got washouts, but it will be an increase for Australia. They'll fancy themselves to beat Afghanistan, which means that there's the Australia-India game on Monday, which will be a big one in terms of the stature of the sides, but this group looks pretty cut and dried in terms of the 2 that'll go through and the 2 that won't.
It does, because for that not to be the case, you kind of felt that Afghanistan had to cause a bit of an upset, or at least get close enough to India where you might think, oh, well, net run rate here, what about if the weather intervenes? It could cause something interesting to happen. It feels like this group is much more well, we know who's going through than the other one, where it's certainly, you'd have thought 2 from 3, but I think it's a frustration because clearly you want the Super 8 phase to have the 8 best sides in the world, where every single match you go into it and think, okay, well, don't know what's going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen with Afghanistan-India. It felt like it could be a really interesting game of cricket. I sort of did with this game, Australia-Bangladesh. You kind of saw how it was going to play out from a mile away, and exactly how it proved.
All right, let's take a break. And then the Hall of Fame. It is the Final Word World Cup Daily. It's brought to you by Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City. If you listened to the episode earlier today, you will know about mangoes. You will know about the fruit of kings. You will know that other than the people who are highly allergic to mangoes, everybody loves mangoes. Even the people who are allergic to them actually kind of, they want them. They secretly want them. You know that they do. They just can't admit it. The legendary rulers Akbar, Jahangir and Shah Jahan loved mangoes so much they planted, this says hundreds of thousands, I think maybe millions, of mango trees across their empire. They demanded their cooks develop mango-based desserts. All summer long, Henry, you can celebrate the mango at Westfield London at the Copper Chimney Arm Fest. Again, this is AAM. That's a word for mango. It means the same thing. It's a festival of mangoes. You've never seen mangoes like this before. Spicy, curries, pickles, chutneys, desserts. They are the true all-rounder of the fruit world, and as such, they are in danger of being devalued by the inclusion of an impact fruit in the IPL. This is the mango. Westfield London, mangoes, woman goes, we all goes to Westfield London for the Mango Festival. Daniel Norcross, ambivalent about the mango, likes some mangoes, doesn't like all of them. What's your thought on the mango as a fruit?
It's right top tier. It has to be top tier. I mean, I look at it like this way. 1969, mangoes to the moon. 2024, mangoes on my plate.
It's the perfect. It just comes together. And Stanley Kubrick was not involved in the fresh fruit platter that you were served at breakfast this morning. Right, Hall of Fame, things that jumped out today. What particularly? I would say you did sort of reference this earlier, but Danny Morrison on the TV today, and Danny. Not everyone is a fan of Danny Morrison's commentary, and maybe there are times when I would be in the not everyone camp. But a hat-trick for Patrick. He couldn't have planned. I suppose he had an over. There are 2 wickets and 2 balls with the chop on and the catch at deep third, and then he's got an over to think about what he might do if the hat-trick ball comes off. The scoop to short fine, the catch, and it wouldn't have occurred to everybody. I mean, it might seem easy in retrospect. It seems simple when you look at it now, but on the spot, decent effort.
Yeah, and you got to say that sometimes these opportunities present themselves, and I'll never forget the joy when I realised that it was Arjen Dutt for the Netherlands in the World Cup of 2023, and he hit a 6, and it came to me that it was like mortar off a Dutt's bat. And I've never been happier in my life. I mean, that was enough. That was fine. And, sometimes these moments appear. I would have liked it if he had said, it's a hat-trick for Cummins, and just let it go past the off stump and wave it through. But he didn't do that. But lovely moment, wasn't it? And you can't. Though we say it's not quite a hat trick, it's a hat trick, and you take him every day.
It's in the book. I had the Gerhard Erasmus whack one down the ground, Gerhard or Gerhard, which wasn't planned. You don't plan these things. They just come to you. Let's see. What else today? I enjoyed, there was the classic David Warner switch hit that was, he didn't reverse the hands, but just swapped the body round and did the right-handed stance and belted it for 6.
I'm going to chuck in the overall performance from Australia being the archetypal Australia white ball victory. Okay. Mitchell Starc bowls someone with a beauty, hooping in at your toes in the first over.
Which we didn't even touch. That was a genuine unplayable, that delivery. It was left-hander swinging across him, like starting middle, finishing off, express pace, and takes out the stumps. It was remarkable.
Yeah, brilliant. Then you've got Josh Hazlewood and Pat Cummins causing the sort of economy and the stress for the batters.
Hazelwood bowls a maiden second over.
Unbelievable. He just does this very quietly and gets on with it. That's absolutely true to form. You come out of the power play, Adam Zampa picks up a couple of wickets, and Australia restrict a side to a below par total. Then David Warner comes out, gets a bit fortunate, so everybody watching on thinks, he's got lucky there. He and Travis Head smash it all over the place. Australia win the game. It felt like it ticked so many. It's almost like you were going through a bingo card of an Australian white ball performance. You're like, it's tick, 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 tick. Yep, job's done. Thanks, everybody. Let's go home. And credit to them. They play very well. There's a reason why this team, so many elements of it can be transposed across the whole last decade. But it felt to me Like if you were going to draw an Australian white ball victory, tonight would be kind of that.
Yeah, if you got AI to generate an Australian win, that's what it would come up with, except everyone would have 13 fingers. Lastly, I'm going to throw in the massive snail, just as we were walking in here to record this. The biggest bloody snail I've ever seen in the flesh. Do snails have flesh? The kind of mucus goo. It was raining outside, giant. It was just cruising across the path really slowly. Initially, I thought, is that Lytton dust? No, it's not. But it was the biggest snail I've ever seen. That might not be exciting to other people, but in St Lucia they have big snails. Things I've learned.
Huge snails. You weren't, because I saw you weren't going to pick it up and take it to safety because it was crossing a path. I didn't know if you were picking it up or it was going to pick you up. It was unbelievable. It was huge, and that was a little moment of excitement. So we like that. It was a very slow member of the Hall of Fame, probably the slowest of all time.
I could have ridden it back here. I'll meet you at the room in 3 hours. All right, that's enough. That's the final word. T20 World Cup Daily, day 20.2. I'm not going to make the same mistake I made last night where I said it was the next day because it was after midnight. We're done. That was Australia-Bangladesh. The Super 8s are well underway. Plenty more to come. Thank you, Henry Moeran. Thank you, Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. Jump on the Patreon if you want to support the show. Patreon.com/thefinalword. The ad-free feed is there. We're there. Everyone's there, hanging out, having a good time. We'll see you later.